Hi, guys. Welcome to our interview. After watching, check out our new entrepreneurship focused book, How to Have a Good Day. Link is in the description below. Hi.
Bibi. How are you?
Good, good. How are you?
I'm doing great. I just trying to figure out if I'm just trying to tag you on Facebook. Just a few seconds.
Sure.
Um, I think it would be easier for you to share the link to your page.
Okay. Yeah,
Would that
I
work
can
for you? Yeah.
put that. Yeah, I'll just put that in the chat. So
Yeah.
I just closed all my windows.
I'm
How are you doing today?
good. I'm good. Just like yeah, just been a terrible day. Just raining and cold and just one of those days.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, it is pretty cold here. I was gonna do there. I just shared it.
You just
I was
shared it?
gonna do like a morning walk and call. Yeah, I just shared it onto the chat.
Oh, perfect. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
So we
It was
are
just way too cold today.
yeah, I know. Well, I was just also thinking of just working out today, but just push it back to tomorrow. And tomorrow new day. And so we are officially live on Facebook. Hi everybody. And would like to welcome you all to my weekly live series covering all things entrepreneurship. And I am joined today. Oh, by the way, I'm really excited for today's guest. Just put it out there. And I am joined today by Sydney Wong. And Sydney is the founder and the CEO of Venturx, a startup platform that offers startup tools for tracking product validation and business planning for early entrepreneurs looking to reach revenue and new customers and funding. So before we dive into the financing options for small businesses and how to prepare for the first meeting with investors, would you mind just sharing with the viewers how you went from working in Silicon Valley to starting your own company in 2016?
Yeah, absolutely. So a few years ago, I had a friend who said if I was very interested in tech and startup, then I needed to go and move down there to Silicon Valley where he lived. So
Yeah.
then within about 10 days, I actually bought a one-way ticket and then I moved in with him.
Wow.
And I just felt like that was a real invitation. And so I got to meet a lot of great investors, a lot of great startups in Silicon Valley, and everyone was working on something so big and so like interesting, and it was something that I wanted to be a part of and I wanted to help these people. So I actually started by finding a problem I really wanted to solve. And instead of just being very solutionist, this was a big problem because there were a lot of great startups that never got the time of day. And then there are a lot of investors who spend such excess energy finding
Yeah.
all the wrong startups that they were not looking for. And so that's how I built the platform to track conversion, engagement, financial runway, and all of these KPIs that are usually at the early stage startup realm. And then once you start solving this problem, you kind of start to see lots of other surrounding problems that came about. Like, what are
Yeah.
all the documents you need? What are the questions that you ask? What else do you need to do in order to fit certain kinds of criteria or certain kinds of expectations from investors or from partners? And so getting to work in the startup industry is so interesting because it is so dynamic and it is different
Yeah.
every day. And so then I eventually came back to Montreal, mainly because of visa reasons, actually,
Mm.
in the US because I am Canadian. So I came back to
Yeah.
Montreal to build out the platform the way that it is. And now we have opened up our angel fund. I've written a book for entrepreneurs as well. And yeah, I have
Awesome.
done all of those things to further help push the same initiative that I've always wanted to do.
Yeah. So, and because being an entrepreneur, actually, when you start out, it's challenging. And so, did you have like a plan B to fall back on? Because you hear people say, well, you should always have like an emergency fund, or you should always have like a backup plan just in case things don't work out the way you wanted to. How was it for you? Or did you go into with the
Yeah.
mindset
So
of it has to work?
Yeah, it's very interesting because when you're building things in industries that are not very common, or you're building something new, you
Yeah.
actually don't ever know what the end result looks like. So
No.
you don't know what success or failure will really look like at the end of the day. So it's very difficult to be like, I'm going to go do this or this or this, right? Like
Yeah.
I always can go back to marketing automation and marketing in tech companies if I really wanted to, or consulting. But these were the kinds of things that really drove me, which was to help build companies when they were growing so fast. There's
Yeah.
lots of opportunities there, even that a lot of people haven't explored, because I've been seeing a lot of technologies that wanted to partner with ours that were trying to solve the same problems but in different ways, you know.
Yeah.
So these are the kinds of conversations that need to be had, because we don't know at the end of the day. I don't know, they don't know what the end result may look like in terms of, did you succeed in your mission or did you not succeed? There's just more of asking, like, what are all the possibilities that you can do to be achieving the same kind of mission in life?
Yeah. And how was like your first business year? How was it like for you? Because it's always like a challenging, a
Yeah.
challenging
So
moment, right?
I had lots of ups and downs in my first business years. Most of it was just fear, actually. It was
Yeah.
just I didn't even change my title to entrepreneur because I felt like there was such a big stigma or so much pressure or all of these things. And I did have a lot of friends who were in startups already, but I
Yeah.
also like didn't want them to know. And then when I became an angel investor, as an arm to the same company, Venturx, I also didn't want to change my title. So it was like a lot of uncertainty, because you don't know how things are going to go. And unlike you going to a regular job where you have a manager that tells you, these are your tasks for the day, these are your goals, this is what I want you to do, this is exactly how I want it to look like at the end. You kind of have a blank book as an entrepreneur, and that is by far the scariest thing. So I don't think that there was a day in year one where there wasn't this like daunting threat of fear all the time.
So, and when were you ready to change your title to entrepreneur? When did that
Oh
happen?
my gosh. I think it was in the middle of year one, only because I had to, in order to apply for grants and pitch competitions and those things. So it
Okay. Yeah.
wasn't an external force that really like pushed me, as opposed to, oh yeah, I didn't wake up one day and just had these decisions. No, it
Yeah.
was just that due to these other circumstances, they
Yeah.
needed to have this kind of proof.
And did it feel different for you seeing that title, of reading that title, or was it the same?
No, it was different for me, because on things like, let's say, LinkedIn, when you have a change in title, your whole network gets notified.
Yeah, exactly.
And then they ask you all these questions like you don't know the answers to.
No.
They're like, what are the next steps? I don't know. Or like, or all of these things that in year one, of course, you don't know the answers to. Are you going to get funding soon? What kind of funding do you want? Or do you think that this will be a partner to venture capital firms instead of a client, say a venture company? And so these are things that I did not know.
No.
And so having, even when people were just saying congratulations, having all of those were just completely overwhelming.
Yeah, exactly. And and well, with Venture X, you actually aim to tackle the problem that 90% of startups fail in their first year.
Yeah.
And what are some of the reasons that cause small businesses to fail in that year, from your
Yeah, so
perspective?
that's a great question. So
Yeah.
yeah, we actually have in this industry, the startup industry, that you have the same chances of surviving a bolt of lightning to your body as you do surviving your first year as a startup.
Yeah.
Isn't that crazy? And so a lot of people, they are not really having this guide towards product market fit. So are you solving a problem for the market that you're selling to? Are they able to afford it? Is this a big enough problem that it will grow and therefore be investable? Is your market big enough? So these kinds of questions has to do with the core of the business than
Yeah.
everything else. So so we find this a lot as an angel investor, for example, when we find technology engineers, those kinds of backgrounds that come and they are CEOs, they tend to focus so much on the product and the solution that it's supposed to provide, as opposed to the market. And then other way around, if you are a designer, if you are a marketer, if you're those, you're going to focus on that instead of what the product actually does. So you really need a balance of the team in order to solve your product market fit problem.
Yeah.
If anybody in your audience wants a survey where we have like a questionnaire of did you get your product market fit, we also have that up on our blog, our Medium blog, so Venturx Team Medium blog, and you can see how you can get towards that, or because if you're not going towards it, you're going away from it. That's how goals work.
Yeah.
And yeah, so you can have that access for free as well for your audience.
Yeah. So, would you mind just sending me the link so I can share it afterwards?
Yes, I absolutely will. Yeah, I'll
Oh,
send you our Medium blog.
yeah, perfect. And oh my God, I've got so many questions right now. And yeah, so my next question was, what industry has the highest failure rate?
Yeah, so right now, it seems like any kind of innovative industry has high failure rates. So
Hmm.
all of them touch technology in some way.
Yeah.
So technology, of course, we're talking about software, we're talking about hardware, we're talking about health tech, biotech, cryptocurrency. So all of these things have high failure rates. We don't know. It's not even just about building the product to see if this product will work, because you
Yeah.
can build something for years and then at the end you're blocked. It doesn't work.
It
You
doesn't
don't
work.
have the right resources. You don't have the right team expertise. Or worse, when you get to that point, your government blocks it or your policies block it. And that has nothing to do with how great your business could have been, because
Yeah.
of course that is a key part of it. And so anything that is in tech is extremely difficult to do well in, of course, but it's also the most, what we are saying these days, the most fundable, because it's a high risk, high reward situation.
Yeah. So, and as brand new startup, why is it always so crucial to have a team around you? Would it be okay for you to start on your own, not having a team around you? Is would
Yeah,
you
a
want
lot of people have started on their own. We call that a side hustle. And
okay.
so that is when you are, doing your regular job full time, or you're in school full time and you're working on this side project. And eventually it gets to where you want to be. You get funding, or you get into some competitions, or you get sales. So you have all of these things that you can definitely build on your own. It's important to have a team because you always want to double down on your strengths and hire out for your weaknesses.
Okay.
So you want to hire out for people who have opposing skill sets as you. So if I'm on the business side, I want to make sure that my CTO is great at being a CTO, is great at having that kind of unknown realm of, I want to build something for a startup. Those are very different than people who are in corporate, people who have only learned in the classroom, those kinds of things. So you do want to make sure that you have a well-rounded team, because then you'll have a well-rounded skill set
Yeah.
and wealth of knowledge to draw from. And that's
Yeah.
something that I always really love about having a diverse team. One of our first engineers was from Albania, and he said to me that he was so grateful to get to join the team. He started as an intern, and no one else in America, would give him that kind of a chance. His village didn't even get electricity one day a week. So
Wow.
he only worked 4 days a week. I
Yeah.
mean, 5 days because he came back on Saturday to do his testing. But it's these kinds of things that it helps us learn better and helps us become just better humans as we are launching these new businesses.
Yeah. Well, do you think that perhaps having a team around you can reduce the risk of failure?
Yeah, so it's funny that you say that, because as investors, we have these very interesting stats where we say, okay, it's about the people, and that's great. But actually, what boils down to is that if you're a solo founder, you have way less chances
Oh,
of
wow.
getting funding into your business, not just from investors, but from banks, from everywhere else, than if you were more than one founder. So if you had a team, you trust people enough to have advisors, board of directors, mentors, all of these people. It doesn't have to be, specifically contractors or anything, but
Mhm.
you have all of these people, you actually end up with a much higher chance of success. And this was proven in almost every industry.
Yeah. So how many? How many people should be in your team? Is it like a set a number?
Yeah, so we specialize in early stage, so from years 0 to 5, and so at early stage, it's usually have 2 or 3 co-founders, and you will have different skill sets. Like, don't just hire your friends. That's not helpful.
That doesn't
And
count.
then, yeah, don't hire just people in your classroom.
Yeah.
You're all from the same background. But, and then you will have people who are helping do some of the work. So they either will be interns or contractors or partners or those kinds of things. And then also what's really important is your board of advisors and your board of directors. So don't give away too much equity at the beginning, because it doesn't come back. That's not how that works. But you also need to have expertise in the field. So if you are in med tech, how many scientific directors do you have on your board? How many doctors do you have on your board? Is it like your family doctor, or is it like a doctor who's in the field? These are all questions that we have to keep digging into in order for us to know, okay, is this the kind of startup that is ready for the next stage? So the reason for that, and I always tell startups this, is that, as investors, we want to know that you're going to be able to spend the money on day 2, right after you get funding, and you know exactly what to do, because we are not experts in your industry. You have to show us that you are experts in your industry. And the best way to do that is your ability to build and manage a team. If you hold on to equity forever, it may be good, but it may be holding on to like a grape forever.
Yeah. So, and how much equity should you give away in the first round?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So we actually are hosting a webinar that I will also be sending you. This is going to be taking place on May 28th. We actually go over how to fundraise during and post COVID, because it's very different than if you did it in 2019. You don't ask for the same amount. You don't budget for the same amount. And the ability to actually fundraise subsequent rounds are also different. They're much harder. So you would be fundraising between 15 to 30% in your first round at seed round, the same for your next round, so Series A and Series B. But remember, each of these rounds are diluted. So it's up to you as the entrepreneur. What is your minimum check size? What is your maximum check size? It will be different in different geographies. In Asia and in India, and then in places in Europe, they may actually want to take the whole round. Are you comfortable with that? Or would you prefer to have different investors? And if so, who are your preferred ones? Don't just send it out to everyone, okay? That's not helpful. You have to send it out to the people that will strategically help you, and that will make the 15 to 30% count, as opposed to sending out to anyone and then, taking checks from anyone. That's not going to be the best for your equity.
Yeah. So do you remember the first startup you wrote a check to?
Yeah, we still talk to them. Of course we do. It takes 7 to 10 years to know if your investments are successful. So for sure, we know all of them. They're not like gone forever. We're bound. Yeah. So we got that. I just talked to them last weekend. So they are actually one of the companies that are doing well every month during COVID.
Wow.
So they are a CRM and inventory processing system for breweries and for food. And so food and alcohol happen to be essential services during COVID.
Exactly.
So they increased 20, 30% in revenue every single month. So they were definitely not, in the hole at all.
No, yeah, I can imagine. Good people still need to eat, drink.
In my city in Montreal, we have lineups outside the liquor store, like the Great Depression for bread, but it was just for liquor. And I was like, man. So seeing the stats, alcohol raised something like 40% over their regular sales year just during COVID.
That's insane. And so how did you go about finding your first investment deal, the first startup you invested in?
Yeah, so that is a great question. We have a lot of sayings in the industry. One of the most popular ones being, it's about the people. You got to get to know the people, but it's really hard to know everyone. And so they were a former consulting client of mine back when I was, starting off doing that part. And so I got to know about their business a little bit. I got to understand what they were doing. I got to know them and felt comfortable that these people were responsible and they were good people. They worked well together. They have a good head on their shoulders. And, these are the kinds of very niche industries that we have found to be very interesting. So that is one of the ways that we got to know them.
Yeah.
And then we also have put out like a show. So then it's called Spotlight. It's where I interview actually other investors similar to this.
Yeah.
And it allows startups to get to know investors and contact them and be able to see, is this somebody I want to work with? Is this the human that I want on my team?
Yeah.
You know? So we've put that out too, just understanding the fact that most investors and startups don't get the opportunity to really get to know each other. So we've been really happy to put that out during the quarantine.
Exactly. And so for those out there just watching, or for new business owners who don't have any track record, they're just getting started with their own business. And what are some financing options for them out there? How
Uh,
can they get funded for the first time?
Yeah, so it does depend on what industry that they're in, because all different industries will have different criteria, right? So if you are in tech, you probably are going into traditional venture capital funding, angel investment, those kinds of things. Those who are in hardware or consumer who've come to us, we always have asked them, how was your Kickstarter campaign? How were your angel investment rounds or your family and friends round? Kickstarter campaign, crowdfunding, any kind of crowdfunding really, Indiegogo, GoFundMe, all of these. I'm a big fan of it because we get to see their track record before they even come.
Yeah.
So that means that we get to see what the market is saying and what the market is interested in. And if this is something that they would pre-buy before they even come. So that tells us so much about what the market is saying. So having said that, if you are building something that will not generate sales until, future rounds, one of the things that we do ask for is how much traction do you have? How strong are your letters of intent? That's something that the Venturx tool analyzes. What are your engagement levels? What have you done to build all of these different things in a specific way that shows us that you are having a lot of traction? Do you have permission from the government to enter this market? Do you have the licenses or patents or things like that? So you have all of these different levels of things that you could do that will boost up your chances of getting funding. And then, of course, have you done pitch competitions? Have you done, all of these different events? Have you partnered up with, so and so? Do you have exclusivity when you partner up, or is it just any partnership? So
Yeah.
all of these things will determine your level of entering the market, better or worse than somebody else who's trying to compete with you.
And would it also affect the investment size if you don't have any track
Yeah,
record?
absolutely. Because your investment size is based on your valuation of the company.
Okay.
And how much your company is being valued will determine of how your business is doing, how your product is doing, and what your customers say about you.
Yeah. And how can you prepare for the first meeting with an investor or several investors?
Yeah, so definitely that is very, very tough. There are a few different ways that you can do that. So one of them is, of course, you can join our webinar and follow us on Medium. We post a lot of tips and tricks on how to prepare yourself, including every single document that you need, because we
Okay.
post that for free, and it's a template that you can use. So you can just use that for free. You actually have to have all of those before you go into your first meeting, because as soon as you walk out the door, they will text you saying, hey, can I get a link to your data room files? And you better be able to give it back to them within 10 minutes. Not even
Wow.
that's a bit low. And
Yeah.
so you better be able to already have all of these things done. And if you are missing any of it, that is a poor judgment.
Mm.
Time goes by really fast in the investment world. Every day is like a year. And they're like, we've been waiting for you for 1 year. It's taking so long. So do keep that in mind. And then, of
Yeah.
course, if you can find either on AngelList or Crunchbase, where these particular investors, your A list, your B list, whoever, have invested in before, see if you can find those CEOs and ask them how their interview went.
Okay.
Talk to them, because it's public information. It's information that people are underutilizing. People
Mhm.
have called me, somebody's called me before from, I think, Singapore, and asked me about what I thought of a former position that I had. And because he was actually applying for that position. And I
Wow.
was like, this was, was my experience, but I don't know about yours. And, this is how it was. So I thought it was so interesting that he reached out to find former employees to ask them about what it was like.
Yeah.
Um, because they have no reason to lie to you, right? And
Exactly.
then Same thing when you're able to find the CEOs either on LinkedIn or Facebook and just ask them how these things are like. Find ways to prepare for the questions that they're going to ask you. So it's webinars like ours, it's other ones as well that really like to provide as much preparation as possible, because we find that anything less is just so inefficient, and
Yeah.
it's really hard. This industry only has a 3% chance of getting funding to begin with.
Exactly. So, and how's the first meeting with an investor different from the second to third meeting?
Yeah, that's a great question. So the first meeting is usually just the founders,
Yeah.
and it's a regular pitch meeting, and there's a Q&A period. The second and third meetings will be different decision makers coming to the table. So different funds do work a little bit differently, but for the most part, they do have a voting system. So they will be bringing it to their superiors, and they will vote on who is going to go forward and who is not going to go forward. And then in between, then you have to have all of those documentations that I was talking about, the
Yeah.
data files already sent, because the second and third meetings are more of the due diligence on the business side and the technical due diligence on the tech side, where bigger investors would then send their tech team to analyze your actual product and see, hey, does it work? Can we break it? Is it, if I had a month, can I have rebuilt it on my own?
Yeah.
Hopefully the answer is not yes. And so you have all of these different steps, just like a regular job interview process. It goes from surface and get to know you to a little bit harder skill testing, maybe visa requirements, those kinds of things. And so it depends on the different lead investor that's usually doing it, and then all the follow-ons don't usually do those kinds of meetings in as much detail. They usually just trust the
Yeah.
lead investor to do most of that.
So generally, it will take about 2 to 3 months to close a deal, or even longer.
Yeah, so less experienced entrepreneurs could take 6 months.
Okay.
More experienced entrepreneurs who may already have a network of investors could take less than a month.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. And well, I think for now, yeah, those were my questions. And yeah, so if people want to find out more about you, and where will they go to? Can they reach out to you on LinkedIn as I did, or can they send you an
Yeah.
email or connect with you on social media?
Yes, absolutely. So you can follow us on social media. So we have our Facebook page at Venturx_team. That's the same for our Twitter and our Instagram as well. I will send you over the Medium blog links as well as our other handles. And probably most active on LinkedIn, and that's where we're going to be sending out our future webinar that's coming up on May 28th. So you can talk to me in person, and I will be running the webinar. And at the end, we also have a Q&A, so we can answer all of your specific questions regarding your business.
Yeah. Well, Sydney, thank you very much for your time today. And yeah, let's stay in touch. And don't forget to send me the links so I can share them directly to my Facebook and LinkedIn. And yeah, thank you for coming on. And let's stay in touch.
Yes, thank you. So
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, and I would like to thank you all for for tuning in today. And yeah, I'll see you all again next week, Tuesday, 8 p.m. Bye, everybody. Bye, Sydney.
Bye.